The French writer Anaïs Nin once said, "We don't see things as they are, we see them as we are." We all perceive the world and react to it through certain personal filters. In the first 3 lessons of this module, we talked about how culture influences our communication styles, habits, and behaviors. And we talked about how to work to find common ground with your teams and colleagues. Besides the filter of culture, we each have another filter that affects our experiences. In this lesson, we're going to look at another major influence of our communication styles, our gender. Nearly everyone knows and understands that men and women tend to communicate differently. We'll talk about why this is so, what implications these different styles have for the workplace, and how to make sure that everyone's valuable contributions are heard. When people look at gender, they may be prone to automatic stereotyping. Because you're a man, I know you like power tools. Because you're a woman, I assume that you like to shop. Movies and television find a lot of humor in these perceived stereotypes. But remember how we talked about avoiding thinking of cultures as stereotypes? How you have to look beyond the surface of what you see and what you know and recognize each person as an individual? This is also very important when we talk about gender. Gender, however, has some special considerations that we need to pay attention to. It's true that women and men have different brain structure, but recent studies show that those differences aren't as pronounced as we used to think. Men's and women's brains actually tend to overlap with combinations of typically male characteristics and typically female characteristics. While men and women often share communication styles, there are times when differences appear. Why is it important to understand this? In the workplace, where problem solving, innovation, and visionary thinking are necessary for running a successful business, it helps to have a diversity of views, ideas, and solutions so the best path forward can be found. When we talk about how men and women communicate in the workplace, we need to look at the research done by Deborah Tannen. Tannen is a professor of linguistics at Georgetown University, and she is recognized as a leading expert in gender communication styles. Her research brought gender differences in communication styles to the forefront of public awareness. In her work, she examines how boys and girls develop linguistic styles and behaviors, and how men and women extend those styles and behaviors into the workplace. The differences begin in childhood and in the ways that girls and boys play. Boys tend to play in large groups that are defined by a distinct hierarchy. They have competitive athletic contests. Girls tend to play in small groups that are defined by equality and intimacy. Girls spend their time talking and sharing. When girls play, they minimize differences while boys emphasize them. Girls have a ritual system of complimenting one another. Boys have a ritual system of confronting one another. Girls generally fear standing out and being different. Boys have a fear of being one down. In short, girls' play is about establishing and maintaining rapport, while boys' play is about establishing and maintaining status. How are these things manifested in the workplace? Women, in the name of building rapport, are more willing to ask questions. In the work environment, which is more accustomed to the linguistic styles of men, asking questions is sometimes seen as a weakness. They also let others talk, and they apologize more. Men, with the intent to establish status, are more willing to argue at work. This is commonly seen as a strength. Women, used to building rapport, often apologize even as they argue. Men apologize less because it puts them in that one-down position that they avoid. Focusing on status, men tend to talk more in meetings and to interrupt others more than women do. With their focus on rapport, women are more likely to let others talk equally and to acquiesce when they're interrupted. It's important for both genders to learn more about these communication differences and take steps to make sure that everyone is heard and their contributions are valued. As more women have entered the workplace, awareness of men's and women's communication styles, habits, and behaviors has grown. Companies and organizations are recognizing that the contributions of all employees are valuable and need to be heard. But there is still progress to be made. For example, women hold fewer leadership positions in major companies. Some people think that this is a result of perception and beliefs that women's communication styles and leadership styles are less effective than men's. Yet studies show that companies that are led by women are as successful as, and sometimes more successful than, those led by men. Women's communication styles and their leadership styles are becoming more recognized as effective and more accepted as a norm. When we talked about culture, I said that one way of communicating is not better than another. Organizations today recognize that diversity is a strength in a global environment and inclusion supports success. Leaders need to work to find common ground so that everyone's ideas get heard and everyone's contributions matter.